now we're going to start looking at some really creative parallel processing techniques to start really fastening up the vocal. So I'm going to show you a couple of different tracks for this. I'll start off with I'll Be Waiting, the track that I've been working on so far during this tutorial. And then for slightly different sort of parallel processing techniques, I'll actually jump onto a different project. Just to show how parallel processing can be used in different situations with different types of vocal. So in this instance, I want to be working just on the main vocal at the moment. So I've just left the Vox doubles and Vox harmony muted, and I'm just going to be concentrating on the main vocal track. So what I want to do is actually send a signal through from this vocal group through to another group, which I'm going to apply effects to. So I'm just going to set up a couple of groups and I'll be back in a sec. Okay, so I've got two new groups, and in your DAW they might be called buses. That's fine. Just set up a couple of group or bus channels, and I'm just calling one Vox Parallel, and this one I'll actually be sending the signal from my vocals group through to the Vox Parallel group. So there we go, we've got a full signal going through to that, and if I want to mix this in, I'll just use the volume fader here to mix in the level. And then I've also got a master Vox out. This is just for the vocals and the vocal parallel channel, just to control the volume of both of them at the same time. So I don't have to, if it's a bit too loud overall and I want to turn the whole volume down, I don't have to turn that one down and then rebalance that one with it. I can just change the overall volume for the vocal and the vocal parallel group. Okay, so let's just get in and start adding some effects. So really with parallel processing, if you're not familiar with it, it's basically just sending a signal. So you keep your main signal going untarnished or with whatever effects. Obviously we've got a few effects on there. Those stay exactly the same. We're not actually affecting that single signal. What we're doing is we're sending another signal, or a copy of that signal if you like, to another group, and then on that group we're going to add effects like distortion, saturation, EQ, whatever, and then we just mix in that signal, that extra signal. So we're going to kind of like fatten it up, add distortion. We just add in a little bit of that signal, and that's exactly like having a mix knob or a mix fader on a plugin, so you can affect the amount that the plugin is affecting the original signal by turning the mix down or up. And it's pretty much the same sort of thing, but obviously here we can string lots of effects together, so we can get much more sort of complex processing signal path going on. So before we sort of add the effects, what we need to do is kind of decide what we want to do with this vocal. I wait on every word you say. I wait. So for me, the vocal isn't too bad. It's got fairly nice high end, kind of nice bit of crunch from those doubled up compressors going on. But it's the low end for me. I want it to have a bit more oomph. So I'm going to show you how to get that sort of boost the low end or saturate just the low end particularly using parallel processing, really give that some more oomph. And it's quite a sort of similar effect to what George Ezra gets in his tracks if you ever listen to his music. So on the Vox Parallel Processing channel, I want to add, I'm going to use the FabFilter Saturn plugin. Just because it's really versatile, you can either use it as quite a sort of mangling distortion effect, or it can actually be a really nice warm saturation plugin. So I'm using this gentle saturator preset, and I've just tweaked it a little bit, turned up the drive a bit. In fact, it's probably a bit too much. Probably don't want it full on 100% drive, otherwise it will be coming out way too hot. And we don't want the vocal to sound nasty. In this case, of course, I want the vocal to still retain its kind of natural feel. I don't want to be really mangling the vocal too much. And just with that on there, I'll just play the track a bit and just mix in the Vox Parallel channel. On every word you say, I wait for the clouds to clear. One day I will tell you what you mean to me. One day. And there, of course, you can hear the saturation. It's quite obvious there. So that's fine, but what if I want to affect mainly just the low end, because that's adding crunch to the whole lot of the vocal. And that's fine, it's not a bad thing. I will hold you into... But I don't really want it to be quite as noticeable as that, and I only really want it to be affecting the low end. So what I'm going to do is actually add an EQ. I'll just use the Cubase EQ. So I want to be almost isolating the lower frequencies of this vocal. So I'm just going to bring in a high shelf. For the clouds to clear one day. And I don't really want to be completely removing the high frequencies. I want a little bit of that in there because it's nice to have that effect on the higher frequencies a bit, but I still want to be affecting the lower frequencies more than the higher frequencies. So just going to make that a little bit steeper, as steep as I can with this EQ. I will tell you what you mean to me. One day I will hold. And there you go. You can hear when I bypass that EQ, you can actually hear that it hold you in total ecstasy. See, with it bypass, it's really affecting the high end. And then with it on, it's just affecting the low end more so, but it's slightly affecting high end, just not as much. So somewhere there's about right. I mean, the vocal itself has a sort of fair bit of definitely lower mid frequencies going on around here. So those are the frequencies that I really want to be sort of saturating. And if I really want to give it more emphasis, I could actually put a peak in there just to boost those frequencies even more, so they're really getting picked out by the saturator. 18 for you. And there we go, we can really hear that saturating the bass end of those vocals. I'll be waiting. And then it's just a case of mixing in the right level there. For you. One day I will hold. And that saturator is perhaps running just a little bit too hot. So it's just driving it a little bit too far. It's giving it a slightly nasty sound. So you don't want to be pushing them too hard. Otherwise you'll make the actual music unpleasant to listen to. And of course, without the saturator on there, you've still got the EQ taking out some of the high end and leaving you with the bass. So that on its own is actually going to fasten somewhat. For you, I'll be waiting. So just having the EQ on there as the parallel processing track actually will sort of boost the low end as well. But together with the saturator, then you get some nice crunchy effects. I'll be waiting for you. And of course, you don't have to do it with just the low end of the vocal. If perhaps your singer's got a really bassy voice and not too much high end, then of course you can switch that around and the EQ. I'll be... Instead of having a high shelf in there, you can have a low shelf, and you can swap the peaks around, of course, to wherever you want, just to fine tune it. I'll be waiting for you. I'll be waiting. So instead of just putting a saturator on your vocal, then if you use EQ, then you can do it much more selectively and really pick whereabouts you want the vocal to be boosted, where you want it to be dipped, which frequencies of it to enhance. I'll be waiting. And of course, if you want just to tone that down, because of course when you're boosting the vocal like that, when the vocalist switches, when they're singing a high note, obviously there's less low frequencies in there, and when they're singing the low stuff, there's more low frequencies, so the actual low frequencies will get boosted more in certain places. So you might want to tone or even the whole thing out with a compressor. So I'll just chuck the Cubase compressor on there quickly, turn the ratio up quite high because I really want this to even it out. I'll be waiting for a dream. Did you say you love me? I'll be the love. And there you go. You get just a slightly more consistent sound with the Vox Parallel group if you stick a compressor after whatever effects it is that you do use. Good idea to stick a compressor on there just to calm down the overall volume of that track. And then of course you can always mix in however much you've got using the volume fader of the Vox Parallel track.
And I'll stand by you through the good times and the worst. I'll be waiting.
And once you've got a good level with that, or you've got a good balance, then you can change the overall level if it's just boosted the whole volume. Because obviously you're adding another signal to that vocal, so you're sort of boosting the volume overall. So I can just grab my master Vox out and turn it down to remove a little bit of volume just to balance it out. So of course that just shows saturation. Now of course it doesn't have to be just saturation. You could use some crazy distortion effects on there, whatever it is that you want to do.
For you, I'll be waiting. I'll be waiting for you. I wait.
So of course you don't have to just stick with the saturator or distortion, whatever you want to do with it. You can add other effects to that chain. So I'm going to add the Vengeance Stereo Bundle plugin.
I'll be waiting. I'll be waiting.
So there you can hear that's obviously the stereo field of the parallel processed track has just been given some stereo enhancement. Obviously before it's just completely mono signal, or pretty much completely mono. And then this just adds some stereo width to the parallel process signal. And of course you can mix in how much you want with the actual plugin as well. And there's other stereo plugins, one of which I'll just show you just because it is quite a good one. And that's one called Vox Duo.
I wait on every word you say. I wait for the clouds to clear. One day I will tell you what you mean to me.
And again, it just adds a bit of extra stereo width and just slightly fattens up the vocals. So these are all things that you can do. And of course, with parallel processing, the beauty of it is that you can just experiment and just do loads of crazy stuff. Stick on some extreme distortion and just mix it in a little bit. Sometimes you get a sound that you would never have come up with otherwise, and it can sound really, really cool. Obviously, it takes a bit of messing around sometimes until you've figured out a few processes that work together. But it is one of the best ways that you can use to fatten up a vocal. So I'm just going to leave my vocal like that. I'm actually going to turn off Vox Duo. I don't really want it because I've got the doubles and the harmonies adding some stereo width to my track. But I do want to leave the saturation in there. So I'll just have that playing.
One day I will
unmute my Vox doubles and Vox harmonies. And just give it a quick mix.
Wait on every word you say. I wait for the clouds to clear. One day I will tell you.
And of course, depending on how much of an extreme effect you want with parallel processing, of course, all you got to do is mix less of it in. So if you don't want as much saturation, you just turn it down. And if you want more, you turn it up. Simple as that. Okay, so I just wanted to bring you into a different track. So it has a slightly different feel. I'll let it play through just a little bit, just so you can sort of get a general idea of what is going on. But in this section here, the loop highlighted section is the verse. Now this is the bit that I'm really interested in affecting.
Whoa, I don't want to join your little fight tonight. No, I'll be your shoulder to cry on, the perfect lover. I'll sing you songs that make you wander among the stars where you belong, but not tonight. I'll hold your hand and wipe wipe your tears. I'll fight in your corner and smash your fears, but I'm not doing anything tonight. No, save me the drama of your life tonight. Whoa.
Okay, so in the verse, the chorus vocals not sounding too bad, that's fine. But what I'm particularly looking at here is the attack of the verse vocals. So, of course, as opposed to the other track is much more drawn out, sort of slowly sang words. Whereas this is more fast and attacky sounding vocals.
Lover, I'll sing you songs that make you.
So what I want to do here, I mean, the actual words are pretty attacking anyway, so it's maybe not a major problem with this track, but I just want to show you how you can emphasize those words even more, so you can really bring out the punch of the vocals using parallel processing. So I've already set up my channels. I've got my normal Vox group there and my Vox parallel processing track, and then my master out, which is just the volume, the overall volume fader for both of these groups. And then I've just got some basic EQ and a bit of compression on the original track. So it's just evening out the volume. So it's got basic effects on already. And on my parallel processing track, I just want to load up a compressor. And what I want to do with the compressor is really bring out the sort of snap of the words, the initial attack of each word. So I'll just play it.
Order to cry on the perfect lover. I'll sing you
quite a low release.
songs that make you wander among
Fairly
the
quick
stars.
attack, but about 17, usually about quite good.
Tonight,
lower the threshold somewhat and
I'll hold
crank
your
up the
hand
ratio.
and wipe your tears. I'll fight in your corner and smash your fears, but I'm not doing anything tonight.
So if I just play it from the beginning, you can really hear the effects. I'll play it without first.
Order to cry on the perfect lover. Order to cry on the perfect lover. I'll sing you songs that make you wonder.
So you can really hear there, it just adds to the already attacking nature of that vocal. It just really gives it a bit more emphasis. So if your vocals are having a little bit problem cutting through the mix and you've got a nice sort of punchy sort of rhythmical vocal like that, then you can use this technique to really sort of help them cut through, especially in like a rap track or anything like that, or as in this track where it's just sung like that, then it can really help cut through the mix.
Tonight. No, I'll be your shoulder to cry on, the perfect lover. I'll sing you songs that make you wander among the stars where you belong, but not tonight.
Much more snappy and helps them sit in the track a bit better, cut through the rest of the music. So that's how to bring out the initial attack of some words if your vocal is needing that particular type of effect. So there's just one last creative parallel processing trick that I want to show you, and it's to do with using very short delays or reverbs on the parallel processing track. Now, at the moment, of course, the original vocal has reverb on. That's fine. What I'm looking to do is actually really sort of help fatten up the vocal a bit. So first of all, I'm just going to add a mono delay. So I've already got one here, and I've just set the delay right down. I've turned the sync off, and I just set it right down to 25.1.
And I'll be waiting for you. I'll be waiting. I'll be waiting for you.
So that kind of has the slight effect of making it sound like it's in a bit of a cavernous space. But if I add a saturator or distortion to that,
waiting. I'll be waiting for you. I'll be waiting.
So if you've ever before tried to fatten up your vocal by just sticking a saturator straight on the actual vocal channel or distortion on the actual vocal channel, and you kind of most of the time get pretty gnarly results because it's changing the whole signal of the vocal. So a good way to do it is actually to create a kind of delay on the parallel processing track and then distort that signal. So that's what I'm doing here with this mono delay.
waiting. I'll be waiting for you.
And you can have that distorted sort of sound, but it sounds much, much cleaner because you've still got a big part of the original signal going through, and you're only affecting the very slight delayed vocal. So that's a nice way of doing it. I'll also show you just one more, so I'll keep the same saturator going on, and I'll use Valhalla Room Verb. I just use Bright Plate as a preset, left the pre-delay at 30 milliseconds, and I just turn the actual decay right down to like 0.1 second.
Waiting, I'll be waiting.
So that's it with it just applying saturation to the parallel process track, but this is with it applying it to the reverb.
For you, I'll be waiting.
And because it's such a short reverb, it doesn't really particularly add to the spatial sound of it. So I've still got my original reverb on my original vocal track. So I've still got that being sent through. So that's the clean mix. And it's only affecting the slight reverb tail, the 0.1 second of a reverb tail.
And I'll be waiting for you.
But it has a really, really pleasing effect there.
Waiting, I'll be waiting for you. I'll be waiting. I'll be waiting for you.
And then, of course, mix to taste with your volume fader of the Vox parallel processing track. So that's just another neat little way that you can use parallel processing. And like I keep saying, you know, all these things are interchangeable. So you could be using this very short reverb after different effects plugins, or you could even add a chorus on. So this very slight reverb on is being modulated slightly, you know, whatever it is. Just get stuck in and try a few things out. Okay, so that's parallel processing in a nutshell. And I'll see you in the next video where we start looking in more detail at the doubling and tripling of audio tracks.